Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bobby's Basement, and I'm Bobby. Today, I don't really have anything particularly planned, but I just wanted to get on here and talk to y'all. It's been a good week in my life to some extent. Every week is every week is gonna have its ups and downs. There's no perfect day, no perfect week. There's no perfection. Uh, But I try and look on the bright side of these things, at least these days I do, and it keeps me sane. I I don't know. I saw earlier this week there was some betting drama in the UFC, which if you're not familiar, what happened, there was like a kind of like a low level UFC card, and some fighters on there, at least one fighter, had a lot of suspicious betting activity on them in the hours leading up to the fight. And suspicious betting activity would mean uh, dormant accounts suddenly reactivate and put a ton of money on a guy, um, or there's a lot of money suddenly going on one specific outcome. In this instance, it was first round finish of the guy who was the favorite, and the the money was so immense on this fight that really shouldn't have that much viewership because the only people who really watched it live would likely be hardcore UFC fans. Like I didn't watch it, and I'm a pretty big fan of the sport. Uh, the the guy who had all the money, like this was the suspicious betting activity on this guy. The UFC was alerted to it before the fight. They asked him, "Hey, are you hurt? What's going on? What's the deal?" And he said, "No, I'm good. I'm coming out there. I'm gonna whoop this guy's ass. I'm gonna knock him out. Yada yada." But he comes out there and gets choked out in the first round. A very surprising result, but not to these betters. Um, and in the aftermath of that, tons of people came out. Uh, Maybe not tons, but a lot of UFC fighters, lower level UFC fighters, came out and said, "Oh, I've been approached. I've been approached," and every single one of them has deleted their comments or said, "Oh, I was kidding" or whatever. Um, and so it seems to me that uh, this shouldn't be news to anybody, but the fight game is a dirty game. It's been that way for a long time. It is the reason why the UFC treats its fighters like crap right now. It's just a dirty, dirty game. And unfortunately, there's some very desperate people on that roster that might do some unscrupulous things for money. Now, I think that it's one of the interesting things. This comes on the heels of that whole NBA betting drama where people who are making millions and millions of dollars every year are getting caught up in these same types of gambling schemes. I mean, Chauncey Billups, who was the head coach of the Toronto Raptors and a very influential player back in the day, uh, was just caught by the FBI and arrested by the FBI, tied to the Italian mafia in 2025. We're like, this is crazy stuff, man. uh, and it definitely makes you feel a little better about the circumstances in your own life. Like, hey, even if I'm not making $50 million or whatever, at least I'm not tied in with the mob. I mean, that's one of those entanglements that you never fully escape, and definitely don't escape it unscathed. Uh, but the reason I bring that up is to say this isn't just about desperation or money. It's not just about a guy who isn't making any money in the UFC doing a scheme. It's this gambling, this sports betting is so pervasive, and it's a it's like a gross attachment to capitalism. I mean, capitalism in its own right. I mean, I don't, like I think it's relatively evil. I don't necessarily advocate for a different economic system, but I think that the the negative effects that it has are evident. Every industry is corrupted by this uh, capitalist efficiency, and betting is one of those get rich quick type of arenas that could be manipulated, as we know from these things. Um, yes, it's horrible, man. I really don't support sports betting. I don't think I would recommend it to anybody. And I think this really goes to show not only does the house always win, but even when the house loses, the everyman doesn't really win. Like usually there's some weird stuff going on. The lines are made very intelligently. So I really don't recommend, especially you see young kids under the age of 18 sports betting or betting on random shit, and you see ads for Kalshi all the time. So, oh, Powell, stay in office. Go trade. They call it. They use this specific wording. Go trade on Kalshi. Yeah, right. Like we're stupid. Come on. I mean, please. It's all the same game, dude. It's really it's pretty disgusting stuff. And isn't it funny? The FBI is like this enforcement agency in favor of the gambling sites. Like they go and track down people. Oh, you're effing with the gambling, bro. We're gonna take you out, and we're gonna show you around public like the fish on a hook, man. Chauncey Billups, look at our the greatest catch, man. It's crazy world. It's a crazy world, and I mean, not to mention political stuff. I don't even want to get into that, but people can't eat. We're freezing people's money. I don't know. And I'm not laughing at it because I think it's funny. I'm laughing at it because it's something that feels hopeless in it, but there's also a part of me that feels uh, life will get better. Things will get better. I you know, I think the Republican regime that has been elected twice, and it's been a little different both times, but that's been elected twice was probably not the best idea, but they kind of won the culture war for the election, and Kamala had to sub in for Bill, and it was just a huge mess by the Democrats. Uh, and this is how things happen. And I'm not trying to say that I think the Democrats are all that much better. Truthfully, I'm not. But I tend to agree with some of the more, uh, let's say, extreme Democrats more than I would with the extreme Republicans or the centrists in general. Uh, but, you know, truthfully, I believe in people creating their own philosophy on life. I believe in people creating their own religious perspectives, spiritual perspectives, and political and moral perspectives. I don't really support any institution that teaches people uh, like what to think. Now, I do really believe in education, and sometimes that can, in some ways, teach people what to think. But I would say take the good with the bad with education to some extent. You're really gaining so much knowledge and critical thinking ability so that later in life you can apply it. You know, I think education's so important. Uh, yeah, I think most people would agree with that. I don't know. I know that there's like, for example, the whole like Charlie Kirk was really one of these guys who comes out like college is a scam and all this shit. And I think if you look at college simply as an economic investment, then maybe you could make that argument. But that's simply not an accurate argument. It falls apart on the basis of college being a full breathed experience, you know? I don't Yeah, like I don't think that you could necessarily quantify, oh, this guy went to college and then grew a lot, or this woman went to college and, found her passion and in life and created her career out of that, or maybe found a person, like there's a lot that you can gain in college. It'd be like saying traveling to Italy is a scam. Like economically, it could be if you don't have the funds, or like if you had to take a loan out for it, for example, it could like legitimately not be a good financial decision. But that financial decisions are not the only way to view value. Does it benefit you financially? It's not the only metric in a value assessment, at least not for me. And sometimes, if you only look at it financially, you'll miss out on tons of financial benefits you could gain from the growth that you get out of something. So there are tons of people who I guess would say education in college is a scam or these things are a waste. They're not. I think anybody really could benefit from going to college, but not everybody would be benefited most by it. Like it wouldn't be the best thing for them to do potentially. Uh, and then I also think there's people who, I don't know, they have a lot of things tied into education, personal traumas and triggers, and they maybe at the age that they're supposed to go to college, it's not what's right for them because they need to do a lot of personal healing in order to be in a place to fully embrace it. And that's why it's important to recognize that we all live different paths. No one size fits all. That's why saying education or college is a scam is just a faulty perspective on the face of it. Now, people should realize that, but it's something that also kind of makes sense. So I get why they don't. You know what I mean? I mean, now this guy, he gets shot, he's being touted as this hero. And don't get me wrong, I mean, he shouldn't, I don't support, political violence in America. I mean, that's not even entirely true, but I didn't support that shooting, let's say. But he wasn't a great guy. I don't think that's, or I should clarify that. His politics and his influence on the marketplace of ideas was a harmful uh, addition. I'll say that. I think that's pretty fair. For specifically for things like I've laid out uh, about education and other things as well, but that's one that I think is a very clear example. Yeah, don't bet. Go to school. It's the truth is you could say that I don't even believe that because that might not be what's best for you. There's some people who might benefit from betting and not necessarily they benefit financially. Maybe they do, but maybe they benefit by learning, oh, this betting was not good for me. Maybe gambling is not the way and all these things. We don't really have that level of foresight to know what is perfect for somebody. And not to mention, humans are extremely adaptable and resilient. And so sometimes, even if you do an imperfect choice, it ends up benefiting you a lot. So it's just about kind of, I heard this thing recently. Life is just one big, I'm gonna say it wrong, but life is just one big mistake. And you're just like constantly learning from all the just all the mistakes that you're living because you're always going to make mistakes. I mean, this is something that I think we should incentivize or create more space for in general society is and just social interactions amongst each other is that we're all supposed to make mistakes. We're all supposed to be able to make mistakes, learn from it, and grow from it. Nowadays, we want people to not make mistakes, and if they do make mistakes, we want to jump on them and say, "How the fuck could you make such a mistake?" And in some instances, I'll agree that is the right way to go. There are some mistakes that are legitimately unforgivable, and that you shouldn't have to make that mistake to learn from it. You should know not to do certain things. But there are other things that it's like, you know, I can't think of a great example right now, but you know, somebody says the wrong. Okay, I've thought of a funny example. Tom Aspinall, bring him up. One of the biggest mistakes he's made in his career, and one of the things that I thought made him sound really weird, is there was this segment in an interview with him where he's talking to this interviewer, this woman named Nina Drama, who you can tell from her name that she's not like a super serious interviewer. She's more of like a content farm type interviewer. She's trying to get clips from the fighters to promote herself and promote them and promote the UFC. I think she's pretty good at what she does, but I don't love her content. That doesn't mean that I don't think she's good at it. Just not for me. Regardless, she had an interview with Tom Aspinall a long time ago where he asked her a question after, I guess he said being asked some other types of sexual type questions. He asked her, "Have you ever been fingered by a UFC fighter?" And what would it take? And asking this to an interviewer of course is inappropriate, but as well, of course, a UFC fighter might be inappropriate at times. These people are different. I talk about this. So we have to give grace to some extent and not jump on this guy and say, "Whoa, what a creepy piece of shit he is." And say, "Hey, damn, man, that was weird. You probably shouldn't say that." Uh, and you can learn and grow. Like, oh yeah, even if I'm getting asked inappropriate questions, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have carte blanche to flip the script, especially with a woman interviewer, and ask her sexual questions. Because sometimes you have to just be aware of what is appropriate and what is not. That's really a lot of it, and that's constant learning. I'm sure when he looks at that clip, he goes, "Oh, cringe! Like, why the fuck did I say that?" But that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad guy, you know? I think, and now I'm not saying he's a good guy either, just because he's maybe not done something bad there. Maybe he's done other bad shit. I don't know. I don't know. People are a mosaic. We are all a mosaic of our experiences. You can't just sum somebody up in one of their moments. It could be their worst moment. And then if you look at them as that, then you think they're really bad. But it might not be necessarily accurate. And I really like, I'll say this. I know this is very rambling, and if anybody's listening, I just appreciate it, of course. But uh, one of my big things that I want to spread in general, and as I build this channel and as I go further, I want to spread the idea of sharing love with one another, sharing grace with one another, and not, I guess, holding each other to impossible standards of perfection. Recognizing we're all human and we're not only bound to make mistakes, but we should encourage making mistakes because those are inflection points of growth. At least I believe this. Uh, and if anybody agrees, please, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments if anybody has any perspective on this. I think that would be absolutely fascinating to hear what different people say. And furthermore, I would love to hear people from different parts of the world sharing their perspective on this type of idea. What do you think I could understand more? And maybe what do you think about my perspective? And what can you share? Just your own experience. I think all of these things would be extremely valuable, not only to me, but to anybody else who interacts with it. So please feel free to share. It's 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 about encouraging. I know that's not what anybody's doing. Like we live in a capitalist world now, especially in America where I live. We live in a capitalist society. It's dog eat dog, man. Where we all, a lot of people think of each other crabs in a bucket. I want to be above you. I want to be closer to the top. Climb on top of you to get higher. And that leads to insane division and infighting and just a bunch of like malicious and jealous energy and anger for somebody's success. I mean, I believe there's enough to go around, and a rising tide raises all ships. I really believe these things instead. Not, oh, fucking Jimmy made $15 million. Fuck him. I don't believe in that. I think, wow, that's incredible. Maybe there's opportunity. You know? We shouldn't look down on each other. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of beauty to cooperation and love. That's what I'm trying to share here. In the UFC, people might think it's funny that I have an affinity for combat sports or the UFC, while also having this perspective on the world, because I think in a lot of ways the UFC is antithetical to it, and I also agree to some extent. I guess I agree with myself. Uh, but martial arts is what I love, and martial arts is an expression of beauty and love, even though it is violence. The techniques. I mean, you can watch these fighters with the appreciation that they have practiced these same techniques for hours and hours and days and months and years to perfect them. So when they are in a cage fight against an extremely skilled opposition, they can hold their own and end their opponent. It's beautiful work. Is it messy? Is it dangerous? Is it violent? Is it some of the darker sides of humanity? Yeah. It's war encapsulated in a one-on-one cage fight. But it is a war. And for me, there's beauty there. Other people maybe not, but I also think a lot of people just look at it like, the old the old perspective of, oh, it's human cockfighting, it's gross, it's this. But to me it's not. I don't think it is in reality either. And I think if you listen to some of the fighters in some of their more honest, reflective moments, they usually have a deep appreciation and love for the sport and for showing people their love and their gifts through the sport and through fighting, even more so than the sport, through fighting. It's a weird paradox of a human. And the funny thing is, you can see how flawed most of these people really are. I mean, and that's not exclusive to them, of course, but how flawed a lot of them really are when you listen to interviews where they say shit like, "Oh, could I, how much, what would it take to get you fingered here?" Or Conor McGregor with "I could put my balls on your forehead." They're not exactly classy individuals. They don't have to be with their words. That's not how they can show their love or their gifts. They unfortunately can do it through physicality. Maybe not, I shouldn't say that, unfortunately, just for them, because everybody has different ways of doing this. But for them in their path, in their life, their way of showing their gift is through fighting and physicality. And I don't know. You always, I guess I would love to ask a UFC fighter, like, how they have sex in a way. Like, are they really like physical and rough, or are they kind and attentive? I think it's a funny question, but it's also somewhat insightful into their personality. I would love to know. Maybe one day when I get to interview people, I would love to do this, by the way. It would be an incredible honor to interview anybody and everybody. But a UFC fighter, I'd have these questions to ask because I want to know them deeper and I want them to be able to share themselves deeper because I don't think people fully grasp. I don't think they fully grasp these people, and I don't think people in general can understand or relate to high performance athletes in a lot of ways. Or just like, not even just like, I think people struggle to relate to each other. So it's, of course, going to be hard to relate to somebody who's doing something with their life that is completely different than what you're doing, in theory. If somebody out there listening is a fighter, one, I'd love to talk to you and interview you. Yeah, but two, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So please, I, any way we can hear your thoughts, I want to know. So even though you might not want to talk about your sex life, uh, but that's interesting, man. You have to understand. Not only is it interesting for people to hear, but it's an opportunity for uh, you to share yourself. So yeah, uh, yeah. I'm just getting stuff out. I love kind of expressing this stuff to people. I hope it's not too rambly and maybe is listenable. The whole intention of these episodes is to be listened to while you're doing something else. Like you're at work, you need something to pop on for a little bit, have one of these on is the idea. Um, if you're playing video games but you don't have friends at that time to hang out with, because this is I'm definitely projecting all these things. Uh, it's something that you could pop on and listen to. That's the idea, and it's my own way of sharing myself with the world and my love. So if anybody is hearing this, this is from me, from my um, deeper side, let's say. Pause. But yeah, I had a good week. Oh man. All right. I don't want there to be too much dead air on this, so I'll probably cut it here and maybe even snip out a little bit of that dead air. But appreciate you listening. Love you very much. Have a good rest of your week and come back next time. See ya.